My name is Arthur. I'm 90 years old. The house is quiet now. It has been for a long time, but sometimes, especially late at night, I still listen for footsteps. I don't know exactly when it started, not the listening that came later, but the quiet, the kind of quiet that isn't peaceful, the kind that settles in and stays. I'm sitting in the same chair I've used for years. The cushion dips where my body has learned to rest. My hands don't look like mine anymore. They look borrowed, thinner, slower, but they still remember things. I don't talk much these days, not because I don't have anything to say. It's because most of what matters feels like it already happened. And didn't people think that by the time you reach my age, you've made peace with things, that you've sorted through your life and tied it up neatly? That isn't how it works. At least, it wasn't for me. I spent most of my life believing time was something solid, something dependable, something that would wait if I asked it to. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't cruel. I was just busy, always one step away from where I thought I needed to be. This house used to sound different. It used to breathe. In the mornings, there were cabinets opening, cups touching counters, a soft hum coming from the kitchen. In the evenings, there were shoes by the door that weren't mine, coats that carried other people's, warmth. Now there's just the clock. It's louder than it used to be. I tell myself I'm not waiting for anything, that I know better. But some nights, when the hallway light throws a long shadow across the floor, I find myself listening anyway. Not expecting, just listening. I remember when footsteps meant nothing. They were just part of the day, background noise, something you assume would always be there. You don't tudger what you assume will repeat itself. Tomorrow I had a wife. Her name was. We met when we were young enough to believe that knowing someone meant owning time together. We weren't dramatic people. We didn't fight loudly or love loudly. We existed side by side. I thought that was enough. The trouble with enough is that it rarely announces when it stops being enough. There were nights she went to bed before me. I'd hear her steps fade down the hall, and I wouldn't follow. I always assumed there would be another night, another conversation, another chance to say what didn't seem urgent at the time. I can still picture the back of her sweater as she turned the corner. I didn't know I was memorizing it. I worked a lot not because I loved it, but because it gave shape to my days. It made me feel necessary, useful. People relied on me there. At home, things ran whether I was paying attention or not. Or so I thought. The last time I heard her footsteps, I didn't know it was the last time. That's the part that stays with you. There was no warning, no feeling just the ordinary sound of someone walking away. I think that's what time does best. It hides the endings inside normal moments. After she was gone, the house didn't change all at once. It took its time. Rooms slowly emptied of purpose, objects stayed where they were, but they stopped meaning what they used to. The quiet didn't arrive dramatically. It seeped in. At first, I filled it, turned on the television, let it talk at me, left lights on in rooms I wasn't in. Anything to keep the silence from noticing me. But silence is patient. It waits longer than we do. I still live here. People ask me why. They suggest smaller places, easier places, but this house remembers more than I do. And sometimes I think if I leave, whatever's left of my life will stop recognizing me. So I stay, I sit, I listen, not because I think someone will come, but because some part of me hasn't accepted that no one will. I don't listen with hope anymore. I listen with habit. There's a difference. When you've lived long enough, you realize that most of what shapes your life doesn't happen during the big moments. It happens in the quiet spaces you didn't pay attention to, the pauses you rushed through, the doors you didn't stop at. I used to believe that understanding came early, that if you were paying attention, you'd catch it in time. That was another thing I assumed. I used to think memory worked like a photograph. Clear edges, a single moment frozen. It isn't like that. It's more like sound. It fades unevenly. Some things echo, others disappear without asking permission. There are years of my life I can barely touch anymore. They sit somewhere behind my eyes, blurred and unreachable. And then there are moments so small they shouldn't have survived. And yet they did. Like the way Eleanor used to pause in the hallway before turning into the bedroom. Just for a second, as if she was waiting to hear something, or maybe deciding whether to say something. I never asked. I was always tired, or distracted, or convinced that whatever mattered would still matter tomorrow. I didn't ignore her. I just didn't notice how often I chose later. That's a hard thing to explain to people. They think regret comes from cruelty or neglect. Sometimes it comes from comfort, from assuming the world will stay arranged the way it is. We had children. They grew the way children do, quietly and all at once. One day they were small enough to sit on my arm. The next they were taller than me and already halfway gone. I missed things, not everything, just enough. Enough to notice later. I remember standing in the doorway once, watching my daughter pack a bag for college. She was humming badly something she had picked up on the radio. She didn't look at me. I didn't speak. I thought being there was enough. I didn't know how loud silence could be. After Eleanor died, the listening became sharper at first. I thought it was grief. People told me that was normal, that the mind reaches for familiar sounds when it's trying to survive loss. But the listening didn't fade. It settled in. I listen when the sun goes down. I listen when the floorboard's cool. I listen even when I know better. There's a particular sound I still expect, the soft scuff of socks against wood, followed by a pause. The pause is important. The pause meant someone was there. Now, nothing pauses anymore. I've replayed conversations that never happened. Not arguments, not confessions, just ordinary things. Words I assumed didn't need saying because they felt obvious at the time. It turns out obvious things vanish the fastest. I don't blame anyone, not Eleanor, not the children, not even myself, most days. Blame feels loud, and loud things don't fit well at this age. What stays is something quieter, heavier, a sense that life doesn't warn you when it's asking for your attention. It just asks once, softly, and if you miss it, it keeps going. I still live with my routines. I wake up early, I make coffee I barely taste, and I sit by the window and watch people walk past, all of them carrying something urgent I'll never know. Sometimes I imagine what it would sound like if someone walked down the hallway. Now, I don't and picture who it would be, just the sound itself, proof that something is still arriving. The truth is, I spent a long time believing arrival was guaranteed. That belief outlived almost everything else. I don't talk about this much. People prefer stories with clean endings, with lessons, with something you can do afterward. This doesn't sound that. It's just a man listening to a house that remembers more than it should, and footsteps that taught me their value by disappearing.